aspects of materials engineering and the history of the material which impact human civilization. As we have discussed earlier about the ancient metallurgy and what are the roles of the material which impacted on our human civilization. So, the objective to study the materials engineering, as I said earlier, that the requirement of the material as per the need of human being, the requirement of the human being, as the requirement is fulfilling, the material is playing a very crucial role. So, creating any kind of product, the material selection is a very important thing, because an industry, in any industry, the two things are very important: the economy and the safety. The economy related to the product and the safety which are going through the making of that particular product. So we need to focus why these materials engineering is need to be studied. So at some point of time or the other, an engineering problem involve issue related to the material selection. Why it is the problem that is related to the material selections? That material selection is totally depending on the capital cost of that particular product, because that material selection will lead to the working of that particular product which we are selecting or which we are making or remodifying it. So the material selection is very important, because if we are going to make any product, their working environment is different from their particular environment where they are the particular products are made. So for understanding the situation and the condition of that product in that particular working environment, the material selection plays a very crucial role. So why it is playing a crucial role? So I am telling you the example that if we are creating a bridge on a sea, then we need to select a material which is free from any contamination or not affected by the changing the atmosphere, like humidity, like water, or you can say moisture and so on. So if we are taking a material for making a bridge on a sea, it will place in an open environment. So open environment, the things which I want to say, that environment will feel all kind of you can say weather, that is in the winter, you can say in the summer and the rainy season and so on. And as this material will build on the sea, that will totally affect the moisture on that particular material. Because of that particular sea water, that moisture content on that particular metal will lead to the corrosion. So that the kind of working environment of any product we need to select. So for that reason, we in the beginning of creating any product, the material selection is very important, that how this product will work in their working environment. So understanding the behavior of materials, particularly structure, property. So for understanding the behavior of materials, how it reacts to that their working environment, particularly structure property correlation, that which kind of a structure we are providing to that particular material that will behave according to that. So will help selecting the suitable material for a particular application for making any kind of product. Either we are selecting the polymer, either we are selecting the metal, all are depending upon their structure and the property by which we are selecting that particular material to work in a certain environment in a perfect way without hampering the working condition of that particular material. So the objective of studying material science is to develop this understanding. The selection of the material on the basis of their particular product's working environment and the structure property correlation between that particular material. So, according to their application, the working conditions where it will work. So the objective and the scope of that present course, the primary objective is to present the basic fundamentals of material science and engineering, as we are in the progress mode of to understand all these things and to expose the reader community to different classes of material, that we explore the various kind of materials, that their properties, their structure and imperfection present in them, that how their property will impact the working condition of that particular product, that how it will maintain the workability of that particular product in a certain conditions to work in a perfect way, that to maintain the sustainability of that particular product according to that particular working environment. So, help understand the subject with ease by presenting the content and simplified and logical sequence at a level of appropriate for the student, teacher and the researchers. Obviously, this material science is a very vast thing, to analyzing from the ancient metallurgy to this current scenario in the IT world, that is the smart material which we are using, that how that particular material will behave according to the working condition, according to the situation, to maintain the working ability of that particular product. So at the teaching learning process, through relevant illustration, animation with content and practical example, which I'm telling you these things in the as in our previous lectures, that how the products which we are surrounded by, to maintaining all these things. So these are very helpful for creating all this, even though these particular components which we are owning right now is helping to create this lecture. So these are all made by some kind of material. That material will have there some impact to use at that particular purpose, for that particular purpose. So provide opportunity of self-evaluation on the understanding of the subject matter, that self-evaluation, that how we develop ourselves regarding these particular materials, and to use that particular or reuse to that particular material to maintain the sustainability in the nature and their existence also. So the historical perspective that we earlier discussed, what about the nowadays, what is happening, where we are and where we are surrounded by the materials and the products. So these are the very basic things which we are surrounded by nowadays, as we are comparing from the Stone Age to now the smart material age. So these are the aeroplane, the racket, tennis racket, the home, car, automobile, bicycle, and everywhere the materials are everywhere, and we are surrounded by these materials, and you can say we are bounded by these materials. If these materials are not appropriate or on their places, then we can't use any kind of that particular products in a perfect way. So as you can see, what would be like without the materials? As you can see, there is a lots of material in front of that particular, in this slide. There is on the table, there is a box, there is a container, there is a coffee machine, a laptop, a stereo player, and in that particular cabin there is a ceramic cups, and below them there is a microwave, and that particular contain these are in the container which is made by the wood, and their handle is made by some kind of metal, and that particular things, and you can see the in front in that beside there is a glass is also present. So there you can if you observe there is a lots of material which are including in this particular picture, as well as in our life too, that we are surrounded by these material which is helping to maintain our daily life better and better prospects. So for maintaining our daily life, we are creating the kind of materials to enhance our daily life and to make it a better place. so that for the milestone which of the progress of the material which we traveled till now. So development that the only 2010 particular data which may you can say the information age is started, and from where the advanced materials are also started to invented. So the development and advancement of the human society closely related with the materials. Civilization have been named based on the level of their materials development, Stone Age, Bronze Age, and etc. So as you can see, the Stone Age and the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the Polymer Age, which changed the most of the things, the Concrete Steel Age, and that particular Silicon Age, where the electronics things are, electronic revolution happened, and now the information age where the smart materials and advanced materials are proceeding now. So the quest of the new material, as you can see, the progress of that particular age from the Stone Age to the IT age, we are living in that now. So we were started from that particular you can say the wood age to the bronze, and then where we found that particular material, the metal, the cast iron and the steel, then we found the aluminum, and then we are in the progressor mode, the analyzing or summation of all these particular things, that the concluding all the property of that particular material in a single material, that is called the composite materials, and that is the advanced materials. That we are, as per the requirement, we are including the lots of properties of different materials in a single material to make a perfect product. So as per the requirement of the product, as you can see, there is a lots of experiment and lots of innovation happening. So nowadays we are reached to that level that we are combined, as you can say, we make an all-rounder material which work at every aspect, most of the every aspect, not all the aspects, but most of the aspects of the material property will fulfill by this composite material in a single material to make a perfect product. So starting from that Stone Age, people living in caves and hunting the stone made weapon, because at that time the only material was available, that is the stone, and the starvation of that particular human being leading to their sustainability in the mankind in the nature leads to create and generate the ideas to use that particular material for their well-being and for their livings. So they started the hunting and stone-made weapons for the survival of their living, and then the discovery of fire, then all the civilizations start turning and taking place in a new era. That's said to be the most significant discovery in human civilization. When we discover fire, we discovered a new era of human being. So however, till the time the fire was controlled to contain and utilize the heat, it was not significant. Containing the fire was not possible without material. Obviously, it is not possible without any kind of material. So started with clay or ceramic material, pots, and now we have all kind of means to control and contain the fire. So we are containing this particular fire and maintaining all these things as that is we are discussing. So introduction of that particular metal, we are moving to the first metal to be discovered as a copper and the gold. We are still these are the very precious materials which we are using, but they have some certain kind of limitation regarding their properties. So we humans started our searching and invention for developing a better materials. So material processing, annealing and shaping, throwing copper into campfire and hammering in earlier days. So melting and casting of metal, melting of gold to give it different shapes. So as we discover the fire, so that fire lead us and make us to create a kind of a different kind of shapes and type of the material, to change the shape and size of the material by melting it and to give a different shape according to the die or the cast. right? So this reduction of copper from its ore, Nile Valley, the town of metallurgy, perhaps discovered by chance but before by earlier potters. So the discovery of alloy metal combination. So that the discovery of that particular new kind of metal, as you can say, it combines the different combination of metals. That metal means that we are combining the property of that particular metals in a single metal, that known as the alloy. The discovery of alloy, combination of metals, mixing of tin with copper, bronze, copper, ore invariably contains some tin mixing of different ores having different tin content produce the first bronze. So this is how we create by mixing two particular material to create a bronze, new materials. The alloys are started working. So we invented that iron wheel, the discovery of iron making, revolution in warfare and cultivations, that the discovery, the establishment of human being to be best, to be made a best, and for living for the best, was live for the better age, and then how it proceeds. So, as this particular warfare and the cultivation, the invention of blast furnace, the production of pig iron from the ores invented. Sir Henry Bessemer steel making patent was made by this particular era, that is 1813 to 1898, and many other steel making processes at the end of war for making high quality steel and so on. So the Hall process is what is Hall process? The Hall process is an electrochemical process for extraction of aluminium from alumina, Al2O3. So that the revolution in transportation, that how that changed the world by rolling on the wheels, the traveling into the sea, or traveling on the space or in the air. So the discovery of automobile and aeroplane started in 1890 and 1910, from where the mankind take an elevation for their progress by helping of these materials. So in 1939, the process of making nylon introduction of that particular plastic also, which leads to the particular era, which is still we are facing that the kind of a problem, but that problem we will discuss how to manage it. So that zone defining metallurgical process to produce the ultra pure silicon, the ultra pure through silicon through zone defining, the silicon chips, the heart of electronics, smaller and smaller silicon wafers. Miniaturizations was taking place in 1960s. So as we are started to inventing the material, and that material are in the progress mode, that is we invented the particular high temperature ceramics, superconductors, MRI machine, the brain scan, advancement in the material medical science. So these all are happening because of superconductors, as that particular magnetic levitation, magnetic that is having a speed 300 to 500 kilometers per hour. So that particular material, that particular maglev train facing a very high velocity of air, and that particular velocity which of air sustained by that particular material, and that particular material need to be that kind of quality that sustain that particular impact of that particular air, that is in the traveling of that 300 to 500 kilometers per hour. So that is how the particular materials analysis and material requirement during making any product is required. So the impact of materials on the progress, the revolution in the transportation, the road transport in the 18th and a major part of 19th century was mainly horse carriage was taken place in the 18th and 19th century, where the horse carriage are made and from where the travelling of the particular mankind was started. And by 1819 we had copper, bronze, iron, steel, aluminium and rubber in addition to the wood. So, sorry. In 1819, we have included copper, bronze, iron, steel, aluminum and rubbers also with the wood that is that is having the advanced property as compared to the wood. This paved the way for a series of inventions leading to a paradigm shift in the road transport from horse carriage to motorized vehicle. As we discovered the various, as we introduced the various kind of materials, we shifted our turn from that particular horse carriage to the motorized vehicles. So the car bench in the Germany came up with a viable motor vehicle called the Velo, that is in 1894, and the Ford Motor made the first assembly line for mass production of commercial vehicle also. So the Ford T model was the first successful and affordable commercial vehicle. So that is how the mankind started the transportation work. The materials had a very important role to play in this transformation from Velo or T to modern car. That is how the particular material evolved to create that kind of automobiles. So we have come of ages, developed new materials and technology based on them. As you can see, the application of these materials has led to the modern day cars. That in the car nowadays we are at that time we are using different kind of materials. Why this kind of material? As you can see, the ferrous metal at that time and non-ferrous material that time. For the body, for the particular wheel and battery for the for particular providing the charging and starting of that particular vehicle. The rubbers which are using in the tire, the plastic is also using on that particular wheel steering wheels and the particular inside that interior of that particular cabin of the car, that is and the plastic also, the polymer is also for making it lightweight, that is the work person, and the fluids which are using to maintain the fluidity in between the machinery to work it properly, and the electrical part to provide lightning system in the working in the dark, and the carpets which are in the interior portion of that particular car, the tires, the glass and other things, which all the materials which included to because of these kind of including all these material, we have created a better kind of transportation work, that is the car. In that particular car we have these kind of different kind of materials included. At that time, nowadays we have the composite and the smart materials which we are utilizing. So you can observe that in a single particular product how many types of material we are utilizing. It is just because to make that particular product a perfect product. So with the help of that particular material we are improving the automobile sector. So as we are talking about the various kind of material from where that materials are utilizing in the automobile and the role of that particular materials. So the engine, that is the outer area or the interior, the inside of that particular car was made by this kind of materials. So from cast iron blocks to more compact, lighter and powerful engine blocks, the material development has made it all possible. So for making the car engine block, the cast iron blocks are very much lighter in weight and power that work with the particular powerful engine, and that particular cast iron have the property of higher impact loading. So that is all possible for that making a engine block by this particular material. Engine components are traditionally made from ferrous alloys, and other metal components are made by different kind of ferrous alloys, which is not only made by that particular cast iron. So as per the requirement of the product, the material selection will take place, and this is all the material science is based, that according to the requirement of the working condition of that particular metal or the particular product, we will select the particular material for better working better work in that particular working environment. So emphasize on weight reduction for high fuel efficiency has increased usage of aluminum for cylinder blocks. So that is, you can say, by reducing the weight of that particular area, by introducing the aluminum, that the working condition of that particular high fuel efficiency is also increased. So that is how we are replacing the materials by improving the efficiency of that particular products, the cylinder head and other engine components also. Some engine covers and intake manifold made of magnesium titanium is also used in high-speed engine connecting rod to reduce reciprocating mass. So as per the requirement, as I said earlier, as per the requirement of the working condition of particular products, the material selection will take place. As in above cars, we were using the cast iron block, the iron block, the alloys and the aluminiums, and now in the high speed engine cars, we are using the magnesium and the titanium. Due to why? Because their working condition is required these kind of materials. So material like synthetic rubber, variety of polymer, foam have provided two-dimensional efficiency to look to automotive engineers. So we are creating the kind of a particular automobile, but because of introduction of the light materials, we are also provide various attractive shape and size to that particular automobiles. So that continuation, the invention of the aeroplane with the Wright brothers in 1902 to today's aircraft, the material played a very important role in this case also. At that time, the material was not as the composite was available. As you can see, the material use of advanced material is stronger, lighter and better aerodynamic design, greater speed. So if we are traveling in the aeroplane, you can observe how much that particular weight that particular aeroplane is carrying. So for maintaining the weight and maintaining the better aerodynamic and the speed and the fuel consumption, so there is a lots of point to be considered. We improve the design of that particular aeroplane by replacing the various kind of material for making better products. So the Boeing 77, for example, use 75% of aluminum, whereas half of the material used in advanced version, that is 787, in fiber reinforced composite. So as you can see, the 75% of aluminum which were used in the Boeing 777, and now their advanced version 787 use the composite, which means that composite include the various kind of property of that particular materials which are replaced by from the 777, the Boeing 777 in that particular 787. As you can see from this particular chart, in 777 the aluminum was 75% and now it reduced to only 20%, and the 50% is composite in weight. So the composite material obviously introduced by maintaining the quality of that particular product, maintaining the stability, durability of that particular product, and enhancing the working condition of that particular product. So that is how improving and requirement of that particular advanced materials is necessary for making the products. So impact of that particular material, how it works, that as the aircraft design improved, the load on the engine and hence its operating temperature also increased. As I said earlier, that in the introduction of that replacement of that particular composite material, taking the various kind of property from that particular material, but also help to reduce the weight of that particular aircraft, by which the loading capacity which is bearing by that particular engine and the heating of that particular operating system will reduce also. That will reduce in the fuel consumption also, as well as other necessary points also. So that is how we require the specific material as per the requirement of that particular product. So as we are in the beginning, we talked about for making any kind of product, the material selection is very important. And that material selection is not only important for that reason that we are using only for creating the things. With that, we need to create that kind of material. That material will, when we decompose that material into the nature, that will enhance the nature, not harm the nature. As we are we are human beings are in the too much greedy position to just harnessing the particular or you can say the digging the various kind of or creating the materials which after replacing the old material are totally work as a waste and which is decomposed in the nature, and that totally divesting or wasting the you can say the nature of the Mother Earth. So the advent of the high temperature material nickel based superalloy has made it possible. So for high temperature working, that particular nickel based superalloy is made. So for making that particular, as you can see, this graph is showing the steam engine from the air-cooled engine to the modern turbojet engine. It is just happened just because of the use of the particular materials. That is how that material impact to designing that such kind of engines or the products for making a better products and better work. So as we talked about the airways, now we are talking about the waterways, the transport and the safety RMS, the Titanic, a classic example. So as we talked about on the road side and we talked about the air side transportation, and now we are now going to discuss about the sea on the sea side transportation system and their safety, by which there was we are utilizing lots of things. And the classic example which is by the Titanic which was drawn in their first journey, and from there the transportation in the sea and their safety was totally taken into the measure by taking the various example by analyzing the situation by which this Titanic was sunk. So what was the condition by this particular through which this particular massive giant ship was drawn, so that the observation was taken place. So on its maiden voyage from the Southampton to UK to New York City, RMS Titanic sank in North Atlantica on April 15, 1912 on colliding with an iceberg. So that in the first journey of that particular Titanic, it sank due to the collision with the iceberg. So as it was made, it doesn't mean that their engineer didn't test that particular material. But after drawing the material, after drawing that particular Titanic ship, the engineer will take a look on their and analyzing what happened was with that particular material. So that we have tested earlier, that was perfect, but due to the colliding with the iceberg, it collapsed and drawn the particular material. So and analyzing done on the holistic letter provided the material aspects of this tragedy. So that's that after the analyzing of that particular collision, by analyzing the material, that what happened with that particular material was at that time that leads to that particular Titanic drawn into that particular sea. The hull of the ship was made of riveted steel plates, that was made by the riveted steel plate. The quality and the composition of steel is crucial for the required property and the performance. Obviously, as we are talked about in the earlier also, by selecting any kind of product or any kind of products which we are going to make, the composition and their working condition is very important. According to their working condition, we select that particular material to work in that particular region. So that the things which we knew from that particular accident, by analyzing that particular material, that what happened with that particular riveted steel plate at the time of that particular journey. So that in further slides we discussed how that particular Titanic was drawn. It was just after analyzing that particular materials, where the engineer were concluded and they found a tendency like ductile to brittle nature of the material by changing the working environment, as you can see, changing the temperature of that particular material, as they selected the material and tested that material in the different conditions. But when the material drove into the sea, the condition of that particular temperature of that particular area, as I talked about, the working condition of that particular material was totally different as that was tested in that particular lab in the industry. So that the thing which is extracted from that particular accident by the engineer, that the tendency of the material to change its behavior according to the change in the temperature. So that is how that the particular things change the concept of that transportation in the sea and lead to the various kind of safety nowadays to maintain the better transportation in the sea. So for that I am holding this, and we will discuss all this into the next slide or the next lecture. Thank you.